Hi, today from TBDC in Georgia. I have with me today a very special guest, Rainer Zitelmann. And Rainer is an extremely insightful guy, extremely wise. It's a double doctor, Rainer Zitelmann. He published, I think, 12 or 15 books. How many books?
No, 26.
26 books. He published 26 books in many languages. I think the last one is going to be published in 20 languages.
No, the next one will be published in 30.
In 30. And he writes about capitalism, about liberty, but first of all, he writes about business and success. And he is himself a very rich guy and apparently a very wise guy. Rainer, tell us about your story. It's a pleasure to have you here, by the way. He is a speaker at the conference here in Tbilisi, Liberty International World Conference. And so tell me about your story. I mean, the first part of your life you spent on getting wisdom, getting knowledge, right? So you have this double doctor. I mean, what are the areas of your wisdom? I mean, the Ph.Ds they come from.
Yes. First, I started as a historian, and I wrote my first doctoral dissertation in history. Later on, I was journalist for one of the leading German newspapers, and then I founded in 2000 my own company. It was only in 2000, but sold it then 6 years ago. So it means for 15 years I was an entrepreneur and investor, and at this time I made my money, because with 39 years I had absolutely no money, zero. And then, because other things were more important for me, I was successful at this time, but not with making money, but as a scientist, as an historian, and with this stuff. But then I decided with 39 years to grow rich and to make money. So
you wrote actually some books about history or not? Or
yes, my first dissertation was about Hitler's economic and social views, about his worldview. And my second doctoral dissertation, it's only now 7 years ago, it was about the psychology of very rich people. This was my second doctoral dissertation. But I did it after I was an entrepreneur.
After you've been an entrepreneur. Okay, so with 40 you said you had zero money. You were generally a scientist, let's say poor scientist. I mean, poor for German standard doesn't mean, I mean, you were like without any means to live. You were like good working. I mean, you had good salary, but you were like an, let's say, an employee, right?
Yes,
but then
I earned much more than average people.
Of course,
but I spent everything.
Everything. You didn't have this capitalist mindset, right?
Yes.
So what was with 40? What was your, let's say, key experience that where you woke up to capitalism, to entrepreneurship and so on? Was there any experience that changed your life somehow?
Yes.
With 40.
With maybe 38, 39, I had a difficult time. I was a nonconformist, swimming against the stream. What is sometimes good, sometimes it's difficult, and I had a lot of problems with political discussion, and so then I had private problems, married someone, left me after a short time, and so, sometimes you have bad time in life. Mm-hmm. And then I had a conversation. I was in Berlin with a German politician, and I told him about these problems, and so he's a friend, and then we walked there on the street, and then he stopped and looked in my eyes and said, it's easier when you make money, when you are rich, to have your own opinion. And he is a perfect example, because he was, maybe you know his name as a German, Peter Gauweiler,
of course, I know
a
Peter
famous
Gauweiler.
German politician who was always very independent in his thinking. And he could be independent.
Isn't he now in AfD? Gauweiler?
No.
FDP, still FDP.
No, CSU.
CSU, CSU.
Yes, he's always all his life in CSU, but he was always very independent because he made a lot of money. He was in the German Bundestag, but he was one of the most successful lawyers. For example, he had a lawsuit against Deutsche Bank for the billionaire Leo Kirch and so, and he won it after 10 years. So he made a lot of money, and what he told me, it's easier for people like you and me, non-conformists, love to swim against the stream if you're financially independent. And
exactly. So now, when you can afford your own lifestyle and your own opinion, right?
Yeah, it's easier. I did it before, but now it's much easier because I have no boss. Nothing.
Exactly. You don't need
I don't have to worry about
buckle,
how to make money because I have enough.
Yeah.
And why was this important? Because I think if you want to grow rich, first you have to have a big motive, a reason why. Of course, there are a lot of people who, yes, it would be nice to be rich, but this is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about really a strong motive. Why?
Yeah, so have your why, right?
Yes,
find your own why.
The most people think first they have to know how, but more important, why. In the moment when after this conversation, when I made the decision to grow rich, I had no idea how, absolutely no idea, but I knew why. I had two reasons. The first reason was to stay your ground, to be a nonconformist, freedom. It was, from my family background, my father was a priest, and he told us always, money is dirty, it's like toilet paper, you need it, but it's not, yes. But what was appreciated in my education was, of course, independence, swimming against the stream, nonconformism. And in this moment, when I had this conversation, these two things came together at this moment. This was the moment. And then I made the decision. And I think this is really important to make a decision. Not it would be great or it would be good if I have. No, I make a decision to be rich.
Okay, and so from then on you founded your company first, or you went to some seminars, you read some books, and to find out how to actually become rich?
Yes, I read a lot of books, and I can recommend it to everyone to read your book, to read my books. Yes, for me it started with reading books because at this time I didn't know multi-millionaires or billionaires who I could ask, and so it was a good idea to read books about this stuff and to go to seminars to find out more about. This is how it started, and then I.
So what was maybe a book at that time that somehow impacted you most? What would you say? What would you?
I don't know whether you know him. His name is a German, Bodo Schäfer. So.
Bodo Schäfer, I know. Yeah.
I was at the seminars. I read his books, and so
it's like Science of Getting Rich or something. How would you translate it to English?
The term titled "Der Weg zur finanziellen Freiheit."
So the way to financial freedom.
Yes,
more or less, right?
I don't agree with him on a lot of things with stocks and so. But he had some good ideas, and I learned. And of course, I read these other books like from Napoleon Hill,
Think and Grow Rich,
or David Schwartz that you mentioned,
the
magic of thinking big, or from Joseph Murphy, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. I read books like this, and then
probably Tony Robbins also NLP a little bit.
I didn't like him so much. I was at the seminar, so this was not important for me.
Okay.
But so I started with this reading books, going to seminars, but of course, along with this, you couldn't get rich, and then I started to do things beside my job. I started to make seminars about tax topics and so on to earn. I was a journalist at this time, but in my free time I started to do things and
seminars about taxes.
About taxes, yes,
and how to save taxes, how to optimize
stuff,
taxes,
and then real estate taxes and so. And then maybe after 2 years I earned more money with these seminars and these things that I did beside than in my first job. And
this is interesting, because I know a billionaire, a Brazilian billionaire, who also started one of his first enterprises for making money was giving a seminar about tax optimization. He actually also helps entrepreneurs do their taxes, right?
Yes, and so this is the way I started. But then, in some years later, I founded my own company. It was a public relation company focused on the real estate industry, because at this time I started to get interested in real estate. I bought my first apartment and I read a lot about it and learned a lot about it, and then I started to in the time when I worked for the newspaper, I started a page every day about real estate. So we had every day one page about real estate. And I met a lot of interesting people from the real estate industry. I learned a lot about real estate, but I saw that
also
they were...
about real estate development or just...
Also real estate development. We had our clients were initiators of closed-end real estate funds, open and real estate funds, developers, brokers, and all kinds of real estate companies. And I founded this company because I saw that they are very bad in public relation and marketing, and I thought I had this double competence now to understand something about real estate and about communication. So I founded my own company. I earned a lot of money with this company, and I invested this money in the Berlin residential market at this time, what was a great time because it was very cheap. Everyone told me it's a bad idea.
So it was after unification, right?
It was in the 2000s, end of the 90s, beginning of 2000.
Okay.
I invested there in the Berlin residential market. Everything was very cheap there. Almost everyone told me that it's a crazy idea, a bad idea to invest there because the prices were stagnating and the rents were stagnating.
Yeah, because there was a lot of old properties in eastern Berlin, right? And that's why there was more supply than demand at that time.
And they built too much because there were tax advantages to build new properties. They built too much. There were a lot of reasons, but I believed that when I made investment, it was always with a 10-year perspective. I was never someone to invest what will happen next year or in 2 years or so. I don't know. But I had an idea what could happen in the next 10 or 15 years.
So strategic investments instead of speculation, more or less, right?
Yes. Then 15 years later, when everyone was very bullish about Berlin residential market and told me now the time to invest, then it was time for me to sell. Not everything, but I sold maybe most of them. I sold then, and I give you an example.
And 10 years later, so you could actually, there was no tax if you hold it for 10 years, right?
Yes, because in Germany it's this way, it's tax-free after 10 years. Yeah. I give you one example. I invested in Berlin in a very bad location. Berliner Köln was at this time the worst location. And everyone told me it's a bad idea. And I could buy a multifamily house with 24 units for only 1 million euros at this time. Yeah. And then 10 years later, I sold the same for 4.2 million. So, but I bought it without equity. It was more than 100% loan. Debt.
I see, okay.
So I made from zero
to
4 million, for example. Or another one, after the financial crisis in 2008, I bought...
So was it possible to take a loan for over 100% at that time? Because it was somehow sponsored for Eastern Germany development?
No. At this time, it was not for everybody. Deutsche Bank rejected to finance it in any way. But I knew someone from a bank. He was very smart, and he understood that it's a good investment.
Okay.
Nothing bad could happen. And, of course, I had a good reputation.
Track record,
then. And so, and then after financial crisis, only to give a second example, 2008, the Lehman Brothers bankruptcy and financial crisis, and there were a very depressed investment situation then. No one wanted to invest there. And half year later, I bought in a good location in Berlin, in Charlottenburg, also a multifamily house for 1.8 million, and then 10 years later, I sold for 7.5 million. So I did a lot of these things that always I sold four times higher than I bought. Mm-hmm. And I did not have, this is also important, and I stopped spending too much like I did before. But because even if you earn a lot of money, and then if you spend the same, then you can't grow rich.
Of course. So and then you sold it and you reinvested, or what did you do?
Sometimes I reinvested, and sometimes you have to do anything with the money. Now today I have different purpose. It's not to grow rich, but to stay rich, and so I'm more diversified with, of course, real estate, but not only in Germany, but in the United States, and also equity or ETFs and so on, and bonds, also inflation.
Yeah.
Inflation.
Okay, so you became very rich. You grew rich. Now you're generally writing about. Also one of your activities is writing how to become rich, how to have this right mindset. And you came to that conference and had a very inspiring, very insightful presentation, right? And you were talking about at first three things that are considered to be important in growing rich, but they are actually not that important. What are these three things?
Yes, the first one, luck. A lot of people think it's very important to have luck, good luck, or coincidence. But I don't believe in this, because for most people it's this way. Sometimes you have luck, good luck, sometimes bad luck, but over the decades, in most cases, it's even each other out. So it's not so. I think it's not much more important to recognize an opportunity and to act than to have good luck. So this is the first. Overestimate. The second one is education. A lot of people think you have to study or have good education. Absolutely nonsense, because I spoke with a lot of very rich people. Some of them had a good education, even Ph.D. Some of them even had no high school degree or something. So
I have one billionaire in my book who was expelled from ground school in China. He had only 4 years of education.
Yes, and exactly. And I met a lot of people like this. So there's absolutely no correlation between your performance at school or university on the one hand and your financial success later in time. This the other wrong opinion. And the third one is that people think they can become rich if they invest in stocks. I like stocks, equity, but more to stay rich, not to become rich. And a lot of people who start to think about how to become rich, they start what you should say, this and that. And for me, this is a perfect way to get poor, but not to grow rich.
Exactly. And what we didn't mention, you are actually a researcher in the area of wealth, right? You are like a authority in Germany about psychology of wealth, about psychology of rich people, and you published a book about that, and we'll be talking about that book. But I mean, you published several books about that. But here at the conference, you were talking about the 7 rules of wealth. And what are these rules? What maybe you can bring some of them, bring up the most important rules.
Yes, one of them we mentioned: be a nonconformist. Enjoy swimming against the stream. Of course, it's easy to understand. If you do the same thing as anyone else, you will not have different results. You can't have dozens or even hundreds of millions or billions if you do the same thing as everyone else. So
exactly, you will be like everyone else. You have the same result.
I think this
but I like the anecdote you were telling about these cows going.
Yes. This is a friend of mine had this anecdote. This is Theo Müller. He's the founder of Müllermilch.
Müllermilch, yeah.
Yes, he has some, I think, 5 billion euros or something like this. By the way, even he had no Abitur in German, so he didn't study and so. And of course, he likes cows. Cows are his favorite animals because he became rich with cows. And so the story is about cows. And there's a long path with 100 cows, and on the left side there's a green, lush field, very green field and lush. And on the other hand, there's a field that is not as near as lush and green. There's only some cramps of grass. And 99 out of this 100 cows, of course, go to the left side. But what happens, the grass is eaten very fast. And one cow goes to the right side. And this cow eats and eats and eats. And Müller told me, I'm the cow here to go on the right side, sir.
Right.
And another story maybe about nonconformism. I know Jim Rogers, this famous investor. Maybe some people read his book, Investment Biker, because he was the first one to drive with a motorbike through 118 countries. And I met him in Singapore. Now I met him in Las Vegas the last time. And he told me when he was young, he was also a contrarian investor all time in his life. And he told me about a dinner in Manhattan, and everyone with investors, with bankers, and everyone was older as him. And this time he had invested in Lockheed shares from this company, Lockheed. Yes, but they were every day bad news in newspaper about this company, and the price had dropped from Lockheed. And then one of these older people, bankers, said to his neighbor, loud, not very loud, but so loud that everyone can hear it, "How can someone be so stupid to invest in Lockheed?" And everyone was laughing at the table. But for him, he was not laughing because it was him who invested there. But he said, okay, then I learned, because later he became very rich with his investment, and that the more the people laugh at you, the better it is. Sir.
Exactly. So don't be afraid to be ridiculed. By the way, maybe you know Tim Draper, a great investor, VC investor from Silicon Valley. The first investor in Tesla and Baidu and Skype and so on. He is in my book as well, and he one of his rules is also, don't be afraid to be ridiculed, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Because if you do outrageous or big things, people will ridicule you. They just don't have the same vision, right? Okay, so this is one of the things. Be contrarian. Another thing.
I think very important is to set yourself really big goals. Most of the people, they don't have any goals in life. And some people have very small goals. And I think it's in a way easier. I learned it. I think you said the same in your presentation, that it is in a way easier to have big goals than only small goals. And I give you one example, maybe, not from money. Imagine there's someone very fat, 160 kilos, not muscle, fat. And then he has to aim to lose 10 kilos. It's hard, and it would be great for him to lose 10 kilos. But what changes in his life? So he's still fat. Before he was fat with 160, now he's fat with 150. No one will make him a compliment. He can't tell everyone, imagine how it was before, it was worse before. So I think, but if he would set a bigger goal to have maybe a perfect body, maybe looking like me with 65 years, and maybe having only 80 kilo, I think in a way it seems to be more difficult, but in another way it's easier because you have much higher motivation if you aim for bigger goals. And I think this is very important.
Absolutely,
that most of the people, they I don't know why. So I know why they don't.
Because they're afraid, right? People are afraid of failing.
Afraid of failing, but I think someone who never fails in his life, he's a complete loser for me, because he never set himself bigger goals. It's the same if someone told me, I'm now in the gym, with doing bodybuilding for 20 years, and I never failed with the weights. And I know, okay, he had always weight that was not high enough, because if you try more, sometimes he will not get up. He will need some help. And this is the same if someone tells me I never failed, I reached every goal. So it's no problem to fail sometimes. And even maybe some of you know this great song by the Rolling Stones, you can't always get what you want, but if you try sometime, you get what you need. Maybe you write down your goal to have 100 million. In the end, you have maybe only 50. Okay, it can happen. But what would have happened if you haven't had this big goal? This is the question. So big goals, and this is the main topic of my book that is published now in 12 languages. The last language was in Poland. This is the topic of this book, to set bigger goals. Because the goals are so important.
What's the English title for that?
Dare to be different and grow rich. This is the
Dare
title
to be different and grow rich.
Dare to be different.
Check the book out. Get it. I really recommend the thoughts and the way Rainer argumentation, his way of argumentation, it makes sense, and it's really inspiring.
And then there's another point. I think there are not so many, almost everyone who want to grow rich know the book from Napoleon Hill, for example, Think and Grow Rich. Almost everyone you asked, of course, already. Yeah. But not so many people. And I wondered, and I was happy that you know David Schwartz about
the magic of thinking
big. And he has one thing in the book that was the most important thing. He said, the real formula for success is to combine persistence with the willing to experiment. Because in most of the books about success, you read about persistent.
Yeah.
But persistence makes no sense if you do persistence always the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Always, yes. There are
so
a lot
you
of
need
people.
to have several options, to try several options.
Taxi driver who drives for 40 years taxi, he's very persistent, always doing the thing to where it makes no money. And it's,
so you should be not persistent doing one thing, but you should be persistent experimenting.
Experiment, try different things, and the combination is important. Persistence is important, but only if you combine it with this willing to experiment. And this means also to be open for new things. For my second doctoral dissertation, the Wealth Elite, I had interviews with 45 rich people, and everyone completed a psychological test, the so-called Big Five test. And one of the results was that they are much more open for new experience than other people. You know, there are a lot of people that do always the same thing in the same way. They go to the gym and they do. This is my mistake sometimes, making always the same exercise. But if you do always the same things, you can't expect different output. This is maybe what socialists did. Yes, they tried socialism in 24 countries, always with the same recipe, but always they failed, and they do it again and again. But this is crazy. Maybe socialists can do it, to do the things in the same way and expect different results, but not for smart people. You should experiment and not only make slight modifications, but do something complete different, maybe, as I did in my life.
Okay, so we have like 3 rules until now, maybe one more, and we will wrap up with the interview. What else?
Yes, I think very important how you react to failure, to setbacks, because everyone I spoke with, he had setbacks in his life, he had failures, and there's a difference. Most of the people, they are this way. If they have success, they
are proud of it. It's on me.
That's me. Yeah. That's me. They tell their wife, do you see it? I do always, but now you see how smart am I. Yeah. But if they fail, they tell your wife, oh, you see, this crazy banker, this was his wrong recommendation, or this was... There are people, when they fail at school, it was the teacher's fault, and even if they fail making their driver license...
So they blame it on others, they don't take responsibility for their outputs, right?
Never. They have always excuses, excuse in external circumstances. And maybe in the end I can tell you why is this so crazy. I tell you a story about one man. I read a lot about him. He was born in 1930 in the United States, plague, what was a real problem in 1930. And he was he was born in the poorest neighborhood of his hometown. And he never met his father. And his brother died before his eyes when he was 6 years old. Then his mother died when she was 31 years old. And he became blind with 7 years. So perfect external circumstances? No, very bad, everything. But you know this man. This is Ray Charles. And in the list from Rolling Stones of the most successful singers in history, he's number 1 for male singers. Even more successful than John Lennon or Paul McCartney or Elton John, and then he's number 1. And he made money. At this time he had 100 million, what would be much more today, of course. And he was famous, so I think he had a lot of things, and he could claim about bad external circumstances. Of course, he had also problems in his life. He was addicted to heroin for 15 years. And then police asked him to give the name of the dealer, and people said it was the fault of the dealer. I said, no, it wasn't the fault of the dealer. And it was not, I didn't take the drugs because I was poor. I didn't take it because I was blind. And I didn't take it because I was black. It was only my own decision. So this is a perfect role model for everyone who was, to take the responsibility also for your failure and for your success. And you know what happened? This is important as last thing I have to tell. I met him at the conference, and he had his presentation before my presentation. And then I listened and saw, there are a lot of things that I will say in my presentation, a lot of points very similar. Oh, my God, maybe it's boring for the audience to hear the same things. Okay, I made slight modifications we're focused on. But you can see, he didn't know me. I didn't know him. I hadn't read his book, and he not mine, and so. But we had the same conclusions, and I think this means something. That means this is not only an opinion, because he met these billionaires and spoke with them, and I met these very rich people and spoke with them. This is the difference between him and me on the one hand, and a lot of other people who write books about how to grow rich. They are not rich themselves. They know no rich people. They have only maybe some book wisdom or some theories or some opinions. And I recommend never read books about how to grow rich from people who don't know a lot of rich people and who are not rich by themselves. Because if you're so smart and you know everything how to grow rich, you should be rich yourself. Otherwise, it would be the same if I go to the gym and there is someone with arms like this, yes? And we had someone in our gym where I was, and he was very skinny. And everyone
was trying to give you advice on...
everyone who came, he gave him advice, you should do this and that and this. Of course, people laughed at him. And even he told me how to, yes, but I have more muscle, you see, as he had. So. But he told me how to gain muscle. So this is a crazy idea.
Okay, so Rainer, at the end, once again, the name of your book, English edition?
Dare to be different and grow rich, the secrets of the self-made people.
Okay, check it out and learn, and first of all, and at the end, take action. Don't forget to take the action. You can know everything, you can have the best wisdom, the best ideas, and the best role models, but if you don't take action, if you don't do something about that, nothing will happen.
Yes.
You will stay the same. Okay, absolutely. So, and where do you have like English content where people can find you also, or like on social media somewhere? Is there any channel?
Give my name on Amazon on Google,
Rainer Zitelmann,
Amazon,
you will have,
and you find a lot. So.
Yeah. So there is in the description and then in the title of the video is Rainer's name, how you spell it, and I wish you success. And thanks, Rainer. Such an honor to have you here. And I don't need to wish you success because you are very successful already.
Oh, I'm only at the beginning. I'm already starting right now. You have to know this. So I'm only at the beginning.
This is a funny thing because this I hear from every billionaire when I was interviewing them, and they were telling me, I'm only at the beginning. Also, when I 80 and over, right? They say,
yes.
This is
what I
the
hate,
beginning.
there are some people who tell you always what they did in the past, and so I don't want to be someone what I did in the past. I think I live now and in the future.
Defined by what you are doing now, or what you set off to do, right?
Yes,
in the process of doing,
absolutely.
Right? What your goals are, and so on.
Okay, so thank you. It was a pleasure to speak to you. Thanks,
Rainer, and bye-bye.